Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer on the Kaufman Center Think Tank series papers by Mariano Bernadez. Today, we're going to uncover the fascinating future of Barrio Mugica in Buenos Aires. And honestly, I'm absolutely thrilled to guide you through this because we're looking at urban transformation in a way that goes way, way beyond just mixing concrete and laying bricks.
You know, we often assume physical urbanization is the finish line. You pave the streets, you build the houses, you connect the plumbing, and boom, problem solved, right? Well, actually, as you'll see today, paving roads is really just phase one. The actual battle for a neighborhood's soul, that's hidden just beneath the surface.
So here's our agenda for today. We're looking at phase one is not enough, the three hidden economies, the danger of AGDP, the locus of control, the cat whiskers approach, and finally, the 2036 target. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Phase 1 is not enough. The illusion of the finish line.
So let's look at why the incredibly ambitious physical transformation of Villa 31 didn't automatically just create a fully integrated neighborhood. Between 2016 and 2023, the area underwent one of the most massive urban integration projects in Latin America. Streets were opened up, houses were built, and services were massively expanded. But this physical urbanization, it really just exposed a deeper, hidden reality that was operating at the exact same time. The illusion here is thinking that finishing the buildings means the neighborhood is integrated. But the reality is that the local economy might still be completely disconnected from the rule of law.
Section 2. The three hidden economies. Unmasking the local systems.
To truly understand this hidden reality, we literally have to pull back the curtain and look at three very distinct economic systems operating side by side in the exact same territory. Pretty much every neighborhood contains these three economies. First up, you have the registered formal sector. These are people with legal jobs, banked businesses, and protected property rights. Second, you've got the vast, unregistered, licit informal sector. So think of your local food vendors, small repair shops, or unregistered construction workers. What they're doing is totally legal, it's just off the books. And then third, there's the highly destructive antisocial sector. We're talking narcotics, extortion, and coercive territorial control.
Section 3. The danger of AGDP, the imbalance of power.
What's absolutely fascinating here is how this antisocial sector actually operates. It doesn't just quietly sit in the background, no, it actively competes with legitimate institutions for authority and governance. This sector generates what Bernadez brilliantly coined as AGDP, or antisocial gross domestic product. Unlike the licit, informal economy, AGDP extracts its value through sheer coercion. It literally challenges the authority of the state by financing fear, illegal occupation, and territorial control. It's actively destroying productivity and social trust.
Now, if we look at employment in the area, based on 2025 estimates from the source data, the antisocial economy is actually tiny. It makes up only about 1 to 2% of the workforce. Meanwhile, the licit informal economy towers over absolutely everything else, representing the vast majority of daily survival for the residents. And the formal economy just sits right there in the middle.
But, okay, here is the crazy twist. That tiny 1 to 2% antisocial workforce, it commands a totally disproportionate amount of localized, highly liquid economic mass. Even though it's barely a blip in employment, the broader antisocial GDP accounts for roughly 7% of the local economic volume. It concentrates cash and power in such a way that allows a tiny, tiny fraction of the population to intimidate everyone else.
To put that into a shocking perspective for you, a single documented narco band can mobilize roughly $110,000 in cash every single month. That perfectly rivals the combined income of 100 to 150 formal households. I mean, when a small group holds that much liquid power, they can enforce their own rules and easily recruit vulnerable youth away from legitimate life paths.
Section 4. The locus of control, the psychological battleground.
To shift this balance of power and actually defeat AGDP, we have to pivot from purely economic theory over to the psychological and educational battleground of the youth. Because how do we stop that highly funded antisocial sector from recruiting the next generation? Well, the most critical key performance indicator here is something called the locus of control. Research consistently shows that those with an internal locus, meaning they believe my future depends primarily on my decisions, they go on to achieve higher education and are way less vulnerable to antisocial recruitment. On the flip side, an external locus of control basically breeds dependency, making youth incredibly easy targets for the quick, coercive cash of the antisocial economy.
Section 5. The cat whiskers approach. Feed-forward management.
Building up that internal locus of control requires a radically different management approach, which Bernardez calls the cat whisker system. Think about how a cat navigates a dark room, right? It doesn't wait until it bumps into a wall. Its whiskers sense the environment way before a collision even happens. Most governments, unfortunately, use lagging indicators like crime or unemployment rates. They're basically measuring the disaster after it has already happened. But to actually win this fight, we need a feed-forward mechanism. We need to detect those weak signals and correct deviations early, long before a kid drops out of school and falls into that AGDP trap.
And here's exactly how this pathway builds, starting remarkably early. Reading fluency in 3rd grade perfectly predicts secondary school completion. If we can track and guarantee that 3rd grade reading fluency, it leads straight to secondary graduation. That creates employability, which finally drives participation in the formal economy. It's a direct, measurable pipeline leading straight away from the antisocial sector.
Section 6. The 2036 Target, the ultimate KPI.
All of these leading indicators point toward a very specific set of targets we have to hit by the year 2036, especially as we enter an entirely new technological era. Look at the sheer scale of the transformation we need to achieve here. By 2036, we need to drastically expand the formal economy from around 35% to an overwhelming 60 to 70%. At the exact same time, we've got to shrink the illicit informal sector by formalizing it and absolutely crush AGDP down to under 2%. How do we pull that off? By making formalization far more profitable and accessible than informality. Things like property rights, digital payments, and simplified business registration are absolute game changers here.
And this is absolutely crucial, because the future workforce must be AI ready. A child growing up in Barrio Mugica today isn't just competing with local neighborhood dynamics. They're entering a massive global economy driven by artificial intelligence. Success in 2036 means operating at the highest levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Evaluating, judging, creating, innovating. That is exactly why those early reading and critical thinking indicators are the actual front line of urban development.
Ultimately, the single most important key performance indicator we can possibly measure is this. Will a child entering preschool today become an educated, employable, entrepreneurable adult 10 years from now? Because if they do, Barrio Mugica becomes completely self-sustaining. Human capital, not housing, not paved roads, is the ultimate infrastructure project. Paving the streets, that was only the beginning. Equipping the mind is what will finally conquer the antisocial economy. So ask yourself, when we build our cities, are we just investing in concrete, or are we truly investing in the capacity to thrive? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today.